Welcome. For those of you who are new here, my name is Dan. I am a 31-year-old amateur weightlifter, with an emphasis on amateur. And this is a new series that I'm trying out, and I am calling it The Depths of Weightlifting. And funny story first, where I got the name from. I was talking to someone in my local gym a little while back, and we were actually talking about weightlifting, and they're a weightlifter too, and I think it was some discussion about technique, and they said something along the lines of, not that deep. It's not that deep. And I just kind of laughed it off. That's one of my favorite parts about weightlifting, is the depth in terms of, mobility. The sport requires a whole lot of it, and the more you have of it, sometimes hypermobility isn't a good thing. We'll get to that in a little bit. But there's a lot of mental depth to this sport as well, as much as you want to give it. It doesn't have to be deep. Sometimes that can overcomplicate things, especially if you're competing. But I'm not competing, and so I view weightlifting maybe a little differently than some people. But the point of this series is, initially I'm going to talk about my training, but right now there's not a whole lot to talk about. I'm in the very early stages of a program, and we're still feeling things out. Everything's moving well, and so I'm gonna have some footage up for this video, just so you're not watching me talk the whole time. And I'll talk a little bit about my training, but like I said, weightlifting demands a lot of mobility, and you're rewarded when you have that mobility physically. It also can build mental mobility as well. And what I mean by that is like that person said, it's not that deep, but it can be that deep if you want to take weightlifting to that point. If you want to get really complicated with technique, it can be that deep. And so that's kind of the other side of this series, the depths part. I like to draw a lot of parallels between psychology and weightlifting, and I really love Jungian psychology, and we'll get to more of that later in the series. But for now, I just want to talk about the general idea of depth psychology. That is just the idea of exploring our unconscious, the depths of our psyche, right? So our psyche consists of, our ego, like everything we see in front of us. That's part of our psyche too. But there's also the stuff that we don't pay attention to, but it's there. And sometimes we bring it to consciousness. We bring it to another part of our psyche. If we have to remember something, we go, oh yeah, I remember that. Now it's part of consciousness. So I don't feel like I need to go too in depth with, terminology or anything like that. But as far as what depth psychology means, that's the gist of it. And the title of this video is called Magic, and we will get to that in a little bit. But first, I do want to explain my training from last Friday. So I'm gonna start, do the thing. I don't have a lot to say about this particular training session. This is my first week back after being away for a week. I was in Wyoming with my company and then my mom for a little while. So that was a lot of fun, and there was no weightlifting involved. And so I've spent all of this week, or it's actually last week now, just kind of readjusting to form and positions and all that good stuff. So we worked up to 55 kilos in the snatch, and I actually waved down to 45 and then back up to 55 just to smooth some things out. And yeah, I got to 55, and I did manage some good reps eventually, but we're a little rusty. We have some things to work on for sure. But feeling strong overall, I would say. I'm excited to be restarting this program and really going hard on the accessory movements now that I am much more confident in my form. Yeah, there's some things I noticed right off the bat. When we get to 55, I cut off extension on some of my reps. My catch position's a little back. Things like that. I know the issues, and I mean that's why we're in the program. We just got to work on them and fix them over time. So magic. I made a Facebook post the other day, and I used the word magic more than once, and I think it's a word that might, I don't know, people might scoff at it or not take me seriously right once I use the word magic. It's just one of those words, but let's understand why. Okay, so magic, magician, Harry Houdini, right? I guess that's magic. It's magic until you understand that it's just illusion, smoke and mirrors, sleight of hand, right? So I would say those are illusionists. If you don't understand what illusion is, then it looks like magic, because magic is sort of anything we don't understand. So that's one side, and then the other side that I think most people probably go to is like the high fantasy type of magic, right? I think like Lord of the Rings, like dragons and wraith lords and Mordor and fireballs and teleportation and levitation, and think Harry Potter, griffins, all these things. And this is actually, stay with me here, this is actually more akin to the type of magic that I'm talking about. And the idea is, because all of those things that I just mentioned can only be created in fantasy, right? Like we see them on the TV, we see them in video games, we read about them in books, fantasy novels, all that stuff. But like, where was that started? It all started in our head, right? It all started in a fantasy, with an idea, with a thought. Okay? So I made this mention on my Facebook post too. I drew a parallel between the act of transmuting a thought from mind to matter. I said that's like spell casting. Now, I meant that in a pretty literal sense, actually. Let's go to Harry Potter, right? Think of Harry Potter spells. We know the name of all the Harry Potter spells. Why? Because before they cast the spell, they have to say the name of it. Avada Kedavra. That's the death spell, right? Destroy as I speak, or something along those lines. It has a meaning, and that's very deliberate. Every spell has a name that they say before it. They're not just muttering nonsense. They're speaking with intention, And they have to learn these spells. They have to learn first how to say it and then how to perform it, the technique, right? And so it's a two-part process, but that first part, that's not just for entertainment. That's not just part of the movie or part of the lore. There's something behind the name of spells and speaking it. Taking thought, taking something in your mind, extremely powerful, the human mind, and uttering it into existence, changing reality with it, that's a spell. And that's what they do in Harry Potter. But we also have that ability. We don't have access to dark arts, thank God. But we do have access to spells. And what I mean by that is we have access to human language. Every single one of us can talk. Sorry, most of us can talk. Those of us even who can't talk or don't like to talk, I don't really like to talk that much. I'm not a super social person, but I talk to myself a lot, in a healthy way, not like a crazy person kind of way, but I have dialogues with myself quite often, and I think that's something that a lot of people should learn how to do. But I digress. The act of the phenomena of human language is a whole video I can make in itself. But this is how we communicate with each other. This is how we transmit a thought from our brains, from our minds into reality. And as a result, we can actually manipulate reality. And what I mean by that is this is the basis of all spells. This is something we all do, whether we know we're doing it or not, is something called autosuggestion. Now, anyone who they've heard of this before might roll their eyes and say, "Oh yeah, this is like placebo, right?" A lot of people will discuss this, in the same category as placebo. This is not placebo. This is not the same thing as placebo. This is a self-hypnosis technique, and it's quite effective if you know how to use it and if you use it the right way, because a lot of us do not use it the right way, and that's the problem. That is the main problem, is a lot of us are using such a strong fundamental spell in the wrong way. So what autosuggestion is the act of repeating something to yourself over and over and over again until your mind believes it to be true. And eventually it will. Now, a lot of people are doing this in a negative way. They're telling themselves things like, "Oh, I'm ugly," or "Oh, I don't fit in," "Oh, no one's ever going to love me," or in more like, kind of neutral but kind of passive ways, like, "Oh, I shouldn't take the risk," or "Oh, that's really dangerous," or "Oh, I'm just gonna stay in tonight," or "I'm not gonna bother him," or I'm gonna stay out of their business." They take a more passive approach to things, and then their entire life becomes passive. Their entire existence becomes passive. Their whole being becomes that type of thought. That is the way our mind works. Our whole body thrives on routine and habits. Think of all the things that happen in our body, and then we don't even know it's happening, like breathing, like our heart, our muscles, our brain, everything that's happening. These are all things that just happen. Our body loves stability, homeostasis, right? And we always go towards that, and our mind goes towards that as well. But our mind is receptive. It listens to things, and the most powerful thing that we can feed it is our own thoughts, our own conscious. Talk to it, tell it what you want. What do you want to do? that is autosuggestion. If you want to have a good day, tell yourself 5 to 10 times in the beginning of the day, I'm going to have a good day. Keep saying it to yourself, but say it with emotion, say it with feeling, because that's the only way your mind responds. Think about the flip side when you actually are telling yourself like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do it. You're saying it and you actually believe it. So you have to believe it on this side of the spectrum too. That is autosuggestion. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you really want to learn more about it. And if anyone has heard about it or has experience with it, good or bad, leave a comment. Let me know. But that is what I mean by spell casting, and that is what I mean by magic. Is the power of the human mind. Anyone who's seen my introduction video knows the story behind this painting, Believer. And I'll just share one more story about a personal example of autosuggestion that I used. And this is a mantra. My favorite YouTuber, his name is Zach Telander. And his mantra is no excuses, just improve. And, I used that with weightlifting at first because I was teaching myself the snatch, this complicated movement, and it could be frustrating at times. And I was like, no excuses, just get a little better and improve. And over time, that mantra took on new meaning. I started therapy in 2023, and there were a lot of difficult sessions, and I didn't understand at the time what was going on. Like, why was I doing this? It didn't make sense. It's like life sometimes, why is this happening to me? It doesn't make sense. But I knew at the end of the day, as emotionally difficult as some of those sessions were, I knew I was improving. I built a very strong rapport, a very wholesome relationship with my therapist, and I trusted her. And so I just told myself, no excuses, stop making up reasons to sabotage yourself, just improve. Just keep going, just keep doing the work. If you're meeting this much resistance, it probably means it's working. And so my brain listened to that eventually. No excuses, just improve. No excuses, just improve. And guess what? Now we're here. And I met Zach. That's a whole story that I'll share in another video. But, I met my favorite YouTuber. I met the person who inspired me to start snatching, who, this YouTube channel wouldn't really be here if it weren't for him. I wouldn't even be interested in weightlifting. So, to bring all that full circle, that is why I believe in magic. And I think you guys should too. And we don't have to call it magic. We can just call it, believing. So, believe in yourself. And if you already believe in yourself, I'm happy for you. I'm glad. But a lot of us don't. So, believe in others too. Help them out. The ones who are in tune with magic. Not all of us are. But you'll know them when you see them. And when you see them, just say hi, have a conversation, and see how things are. That's all I've got for you guys. I'm going to continue this series. I think it's a lot of fun for me anyway. If anyone has suggestions, things they would want me to talk about, I'd love to collaborate with other people on this. But for now, this will just be my training vlog where I also talk about depth psychology. Yeah. Until next time, guys.